Hello, everyone. I was going to say I'm pleased to be here, but in a way I'm quite sad, and I think you all will agree with me on that. Today, I stand here with Polly Higgins behind me. I met Polly in 2013, and she told me about ecocide, which means the mass damage and destruction of ecosystems, and how we can prevent ecocide from happening through Ecocide Law. And at that moment, I knew this was something really important, and I decided to dedicate a big part of my life to it. Also, I realized that we actually live in, I can't say it in other words, in an insane world. How is it possible that we can trash our planet without any consequences? It's just unbelievable. So, Ecocide Law is just a must. How come it isn't even here yet? In 2014, Polly met Jojo Mehta, and they became friends. And in 2017, they founded the campaign Stop Ecocide International. In 2019, Polly became very ill, and she passed away after a month of illness. And we all realized, well, we knew, obviously, this was a really, really, really good idea. But Polly wasn't here anymore to make it happen. So what we did is we joined forces, and now we are going to make it happen. So I will now introduce Jojo Mehta to you, who will tell you more about Ecocide Law, and also how it relates to the plastic soup. Thank you very much.
Good day to you all, and greetings from an autumn day in rural England, where my office is surrounded by trees. This feels appropriate given the nature of our work to establish a law to protect the earth. The route we pursue is that of amending the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court to include a crime of ecocide. This, we believe, will achieve three key things. Firstly, it creates a coherent new ground rule that applies across many jurisdictions, which is important as the worst polluters are often transnational corporations. Secondly, the adoption process takes a little time and a lot of support, meaning that there is a period where the law is not yet in place but can be seen gathering momentum, approaching over the horizon, if you like, therefore provoking positive behavioural change in anticipation of its arrival. Thirdly, and powerfully, it is a strategic legal intervention that helps to create a shift in cultural consciousness, a new moral taboo, if you like. We all know you can't apply to a government to kill people for your new business. It wouldn't even cross our minds to do so. But we don't yet recoil, pull back in the same healthy way from destroying the natural world. Criminalizing serious harm to nature at the highest level creates a strong moral foundation for that. How is ecocide relevant to today's summit? Well, it's profoundly relevant, since the full life cycle of plastics provides, sadly, ample opportunity for ecocidal practices. The International Energy Agency has already recommended that all new fossil fuel extraction plans be halted, as the effects are now so threatening to the already destabilized climate. Chemical processes in plastics production, especially when badly contained, can lead to severe pollution of air and watercourses. Even the use of plastics, including synthetic garments, has now been shown to be creating micro and nano pollution at levels that are measurable and significant in the human body. And at the tail end of our still largely linear approach to production and consumption, the waste problems created by plastic are multiple, from ocean pollution threatening entire marine ecosystems, to dioxin creation from incineration, where the burning of plastics creates brand new poisons that are among the most deadly known to science. Taken together, all of this impact has led plastic pollution to be described by some as a possible 10th planetary boundary, alongside others such as climate change or ocean acidification, beyond which it could become dangerous to the wider balance of the entire Earth system. In other words, dangerous to the supportive conditions in which human society can comfortably be maintained. Some of this cycle, it is true, is difficult to pin down in criminal law. Many activities in the central part of that cycle, which are harmful, are engaged in by many people together, but as individuals. The use and immediate disposal of plastic items or synthetic garments, for example, and could not constitute an international level crime. But at the production and disposal ends of that cycle, the story is different. At present, company officials are bound by fiduciary duties to maximize profit, and so are actually obliged to try to cut corners and follow the cheapest routes, substances, and supply chain practices, which are often the dirtiest as they take little note of environmental impact. The approach that this situation encourages goes something like this. How do we go about skirting the edges of non-compliance with regulation? It gives rise to the kind of question, how much of this toxin can we release in this context and just about get away with it? Criminal law aimed at individual decision makers has the potential to change that at a profound level. We can see this when we compare it to damaging people, for example, or damaging someone else's property. We don't try to nearly do this, but not quite. We don't ask ourselves how we can, as a side effect of our business activities, damage someone to a certain degree, but work out how to stop just short of killing them. That would be a nonsense. We look for other ways to achieve our goals that avoid harm and protect life and property. This is what an international crime of ecocide could do to protect the natural living world, creating individual criminal responsibility for key decision makers at the highest level. At first glance, it might seem that it's all about putting the bad guys in the dock, and once it's in place, prosecutions will indeed be able to be taken in any ratifying jurisdiction. But this is not the true aim. It's fundamentally about changing norms and deterring the harmful practices by creating the necessary parameter for a genuine shift of direction. It's about creating a new and healthy taboo in the form of personal criminal responsibility. Nothing concentrates the mind quite like having one's personal freedom at stake. As of June this year, there is a legal definition of ecocide, drafted by a panel of top international criminal and environmental lawyers convened by our foundation, which is our charitable arm. Bringing together diverse legal experience and expertise from around the world, and led by renowned British-French barrister Philippe Sands QC and Senegalese jurist Dior Falso, it is drafted as a fifth international crime, to sit in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court alongside genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. The core text is just one sentence. Ecocide means unlawful or wanton acts committed with knowledge that there is a substantial likelihood of severe and either widespread or long-term damage to the environment being caused by those acts. It's simple and clear. It's based strongly on legal precedent, and it addresses the worst harms while also taking account of and reinforcing existing laws that may vary from one jurisdiction to another. It does this by means of the two thresholds contained in it, one addressing the severity of potential harm, and the second, the illegality or recklessness of the act, so that even where a practice may be legally permitted, if the impacts are disproportionately severe, it can also fall under this definition. Also, like some of the other crimes listed in the Rome Statute, it is framed as a crime of endangerment, not of actual material harm. Just as directing an attack against a civilian population is a war crime regardless of actual harm to that population, so acts threatening severe environmental harm will constitute a crime in and of themselves. which, when you think about it, is very sensible in the case of environmental damage, since we don't want to have to wait until half the planet is destroyed before working our way back to find who is at fault. Investors, insurers, CEOs and policymakers, indeed the public at large as well, all know in our hearts that profound change is needed if we're to emerge from this crisis, not unscathed, we only have to watch the news to see it's already too late for that, but with a fighting chance of surviving and thriving. Which is probably why 16 member states of the International Criminal Court are already publicly talking about ecocide law, at government or parliamentary level. Bangladesh, Brazil, Bolivia, Belgium, Canada, Chile, Finland, France, Luxembourg, the Maldives, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, the UK and Vanuatu, as well as Scotland, the European Parliament, the Nordic Council and the Interparliamentary Union. A number of others are in conversation on the subject behind closed doors, even if they may not be ready to speak out yet. So it's clear this law is on its way. Insurance executives and political advisors are already telling us they know it's coming, they just don't know exactly when. We estimate that states could be ratifying it within 4 or 5 years. And while that may seem slow when we are aware of the terrifying apocalypse of fires and floods already unfolding in California, Siberia, central China, Turkey and Greece, to name but a few, and we know the damage that plastic pollution is creating in so many environments on our planet, this time is needed to prepare for its arrival because the implications will be broad, and necessarily so. Ecocide law is not a distraction from other more immediate actions addressing plastic pollution, legal or otherwise. All those other actions are deeply supported by the very approach of this law. It's a long overdue health and safety law for the planet. It's a foundational piece that is currently missing, and that we can all help to bring into being by making that simple, powerful word, ecocide, familiar in our own networks. And we all have networks, great and small. It's a word that encapsulates the terrible extent of damage that we all perceive to be happening to the natural living world in so many different ways. Ecocide. And the moment we understand that word, we intuitively know it to be both dangerous and morally wrong. It's a small but essential step from acknowledging that understanding to calling for it to be reflected in law. And together, we can all take that step. Thank you.